Welcome everyone to my project-based learning presentation. Chapter 3 was titled Imagining the Possibilities. So there are so many different possibilities that this type of learning, project-based learning, has on children and the students in our classroom. So rather than just teaching from a published curriculum, we can expand big ideas that students will likely retain better through these project-based experiences. So good projects connect directly to students' frames of reference, interest, and experiences. Project learning is like real life. It gets messy, it overlaps multiple disciplines, takes it a step further with technology, and now students are able to host video conferences across the nation and with other peers in other countries, which I think is really awesome that children get to see that their project offers value in other communities and in their community, and they become more invested in learning that particular concept when they see that their projects are offering value and that they get to interact through technology via video conference to share their projects with the peers in other countries and in other cultures, which is really neat also. Project planning for learning actions associated with higher order categories of Bloom's taxonomy. So in our book, I was reading about the Bloom's taxonomy of educational objectives, which are remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. And in our book, it mentioned that analyze, evaluate, and create are mostly going to be used when doing project-based learning. So when we analyze, we want to draw connections among ideas that we may have, compare and contrast, see what we and other peers around us think about a certain idea. Then when we evaluate, we're going to justify or stand on a decision. So we're going to judge or select or support a decision in which we've concluded amongst our ideas. And then we're going to produce a new or original work. So we're going to design something, which is hands-on, and oftentimes when students retain information better when they are working hands-on. So chapter 3 continued with project-based learning. Digital age skills and digital age literacies are being taught and practiced. There are standards that represent international thinking about the wide range of skills required to learn and live in an increasingly digital world. Learning dispositions in students are important traits, attitudes, habits, and feelings that we encourage but usually cannot teach directly. So we want to help students learn through experiences and encouragement to then develop these traits like confidence, curiosity, resourcefulness, cooperation, motivation, persistence, and courage. So cultivated in students through these dispositions. And then there's grit and self-control. When students show these traits, it's called attention to their positive capabilities influencing learning and the products of learning. Exposing these traits helps students to have a growth mindset when it comes to project challenges. So oftentimes students get frustrated with projects, or they don't think they're creative enough, or they're just not confident enough in doing a project. So when we are able to show these positive capabilities influencing their learning, it just shows them grit, which means, here's the G for give it your best effort, R for redo if necessary, it's okay to redo it, I ignore the urge to quit, and T take time to do it right. So just, slow down, really think about the project and just give it your best effort. And, if it takes, Rome wasn't built in a day. So if it takes another try to ignore the urge to quit and not give up and just keep. And with this experiences, we'll start to cultivate in these students confidence, curiosity, and motivation. Persistence will start to build within them after we have called attention to their positive capabilities. So that was chapter 3. Chapter 4 was called Strategies for Discovery. So, strategies for discovering a project-based learning is reviewing project plans and be selective when selecting a project designed by someone else or even if you decide to design it on your own. Watch for pitfalls such as long on activity or short on learning outcomes. So the activity might be drawn out really long and the learning outcomes are very short. They're not too extensive. So making sure that we're paying attention to these pitfalls such as like technology layered over traditional practice. Does it bring the students together? Is it disconnecting? Does it enable students to connect with authentic audience? Provides ways for students to create and share unique and high quality learning products. So these are all just strategies for discovering project-based learning. So you just want to watch out for these when reviewing project plans or trying to implement a project. We want to stay away from overly scripted or too many step projects. Sometimes students will get lost in the too many rules and overly scripted rather than just the black and white. This is what it is. I think they gain a lot more from that and their ideas flow a little better so they can maybe add to it. Make sure that there's not enough. Make sure to stay away from things like if there's not enough focus on formative assessment. Does the project plan have phases with natural milestones? Asking ourselves these questions are important. Assessments that do not feel authentic, stay away from. Students should be assessed in the way that mirrors real-world measures of quality. Make sure students have authentic task or project and a real audience, which helps with that. In chapter 3, they were saying about the video conferencing with other students or peers in different states or countries. So that's like a real interaction with a real project. So I think that's what they're trying to connect to. Chapter 4 continued. It just tells us to consider these aspects to improve quality of the project, compare and contrast, make sure the project you can predict, cause and effect, systems change over time, patterns and trends, perspectives and alternate points of view, informed decisions, and to create something new. So we really want to expand their creativity and spark that idea in their brains. A good project is not to be a lab in which students replicate, which a lot of times I've seen teachers, it's like a cookie cutter project where they have a example of what's been made before and students feel as though they have to replicate it. We should stay away from that. Instead, it should be an extended investigation to where their ideas can create something new. So these project ideas should come from news stories, contemporary issues, students' questions or interests, maybe a classroom irritant put into educational use. And I have a resources page for more strategies in discovering project ideas, so that'll be coming up after chapter 5. So chapter 5 was called Making Assessment Meaningful, and there was a summative assessment plan and a formative assessment plan. For the summative assessment plan, it goes through learning objectives. What will the students learn through this project? What kind of learning opportunities will these students have? And then it'll go to assessment, what approaches might they take to go from not knowing to knowing. So what approach did the students take to spark that light bulb? And then using results. So what would they need to demonstrate to show that they learned this concept? And then this formative assessment plan, basically it sets milestones, marks the phase of an activity, and then plans check-in. So the teacher will have a brief meeting or written updates to discuss learning skills and processes. And then lastly, they'll look for progress markers, so ways to guide learning, make it more understanding for the student as far as making progress, because learning is never ending. And then chapter 5 continued. There was just some things I bulleted here. Common assessment rubrics developed or constructed from scratch. If built from scratch, categories are knowledge, skills, and processes or dispositions. So there's rubrics for common assessments if it's already developed, but if you're doing an assessment from scratch, those are the categories that are typically used. Main reasons for assessments are measuring students' learning in a summative way and evaluating the quality of the students' project. So what did they learn from designing this project? It also helps with performance tasks specifically to construct quality tasks and assessments in project-based learning. Tasks and assessments should integrate knowledge and skills across multiple content standards or strands within a content area, reflect a real-world scenario-based problem, accomplish complex goals, be multi-stepped, and allow for reflection and revision. So this is what makes assessment meaningful and project-based learning so helpful for students to learn in a more effective way rather than getting bored. And lastly, I have my page for resources and references. So these are a lot of references, or this is a lot of resources and one reference that I used because the book. But these resources really stood out to me while reading through chapters 3 through 5. These are all resources to integrate project-based learning. So I hope you guys all enjoyed my presentation, and hopefully this is helpful. Have a great day.